are the dream stealers in our careers? Because they're there. Otherwise, this would be a much easier endeavor. More people would make it. It'd probably make less money too. But what are those giant walls for us to get over that stop so many people? I call them the dream stealers. First are the W-2s, or the Reddit advisors, as I'll call them. There's nothing wrong with being a W-2, having a job, being an employee, nothing wrong at all. But for some reason, I think it's hip lately for some of those folks who maybe tried a 1099 business or failed, or they had a family member who did it, or they just don't get what 1099 is. They're very naive for it, but they will give advice to people who are considering it a 1099 career as if they know what they're talking about. And they do it out of naivety, fear, or failure. Being 1099 simply means that you do not have an employer paying your FICA or covering other benefits. You're a business owner. That is exactly the local mom and pop ice cream store is 1099. Your taxi driver is often 1099. That kind of dates me. I think your Uber driver is often 1099. If you're 1099, you have increased risk financially. It means that you've got to create revenue minus your expenses, and then you have an income. The negative is that's higher risk than being an employee, where you don't incur those expenses or that risk of having to make that revenue. Someone is guaranteeing revenue, at least for the time being. On the other hand, 1099 people have a great deal of freedom with what they do, when they do it, and how they do it, with their day and their time and their schedule. They also have total control over their upside relative to someone who's a W-2. And they have far more upside, but fewer of them will experience that upside because there is more risk. More people in the W-2 world will experience the financial gains promised them because it's a salary or it's a wage. Another upside downside, is W-2 has short-term security and perhaps some extra benefits, again, more security. But long-term, there's zero security. We all know people who are great at their careers, that were in their job for a long period of time, that just got let go all of a sudden. No fault of their own at all. 1099 takes greater risk, but they can have greater longevity if they're good at what they do, they're successful at it. Other people have far less control over their career and their circumstances. So it's a plus and minus. Don't let people who it just didn't work out for them, or they're just naive. They just don't understand the subject very well, and they're just fearful of it. Don't let them impact you. Now, I heard someone accuse this line of thought of survivorship bias. Have you heard that term before? So I thought I'd look up that term. So survivorship bias is when we assume that success tells the whole story, and when we don't adequately consider past failures. And we have a little triangle, a pyramid, and at the top you have your top 1%ers, and those are the people who make it. If I can do it, anyone can, with the 99% below that failed. Ignored in this idea of survivorship bias. I think you should take into account why some people failed and if it is worth trying to be in that top 1%. Now, fortunately, in our industry, it's not top 1%. It's about 8 to 11% industry-wide, and those numbers suck. And I think there's a lot of reasons that go into that, and I've talked about in other videos. And fortunately here, we're about 5 to 10 times higher success rate in our agency. But that's in part because we help people avoid the other dream stealers. So what do many of the survivors avoid of the dream stealers? Work-life balance. Work-life balance in its pursuit can be very healthy, and I respect people who want to be W-2 employees and seek that work-life balance right now and consistently in their life. But as I said before, it's not guaranteed. It may not last. And the world around us tells us it's totally up in the air whether it will be summarily disrupted. I've watched people's life savings just fall apart and dwindle away for 6 months to 2 years after losing a job that they were great at and they'd had for a long time. They thought they had a pension, they thought they had a 401k. So W-2 is fine, and work-life balance is a fine pursuit. But if you want that thing that is rare and precious, which is genuine control over that time, and you want outsized monetary gain, so you have outsized control and access and means in your life to bless other people and your own family, then you do have to take the risk. Part of that risk is that early on, there is no work-life balance. You unbalance things one way for a period of time so that you can unbalance them the other way for the remainder of your life. I had the great fortune to be invited into this career and just bumble into it, not really knowing what the heck I was doing, except I knew how to work hard. I knew how to focus on a thing and just keep going with little breaks, called weekends primarily, in between for a few months. And then overall for a couple years where I definitely worked more than a 40-hour work week on average. Now, I took vacations whenever I wanted to take vacations. I took them as long as I wanted them. But when I was on, I was on. And in trade, now I have a very unusual level of financial, time, and resource freedom. So work-life balance is a dream stealer if you buy into it and you say you want that outsized gains and freedom, but you try and hold on to that work-life balance. It doesn't work. Everyone I've seen that tries to hold on to the work-life balance, but they want this outsized gain that most people don't have, they don't get it. They're not going to get it because their comfort matters more to them than those things. Third, we've got second jobs in college. Now that sounds awful. I'm not damning a second job and going out there and grinding and making something work while you try and build something that matters more to you. And I'm definitely not damning college, but I've seen so many people who try and do those things together while starting an insurance career. And I'll tell you what, there is less than a 1% success rate industry-wide in people who try and do this business part-time, in those who are to make it a profitable, long-term business. It doesn't mix well. If you're going to do college and do some other supplemental income. If you're going to do a second job, bless you, but this doesn't mix well with it. Unfortunately, the universe expects you to really give this your whole heart and mind. And that's how you become good at it. Otherwise, it's going to be such a slim career and you're going to get so little out of it. And your income is going to reflect that. Don't go into this career trying to earn $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year or less than that because you're part-time. Go into this career trying to make an impactful life out of it. And you do that by focusing on it, helping others. I don't want to demonize helping other people, but especially for folks who have been a wage or salary-based job like I was before going into this career. And some friends and family may see you as someone who has lots of time freedom. Or maybe you had lots of time freedom and you were 1099 before. Either way, if you let other people say, oh, could you do this? Oh, could you do this? Oh, can you come here? You need to learn to say no. Because if you don't learn to say no, if you don't design and craft people's expectations in the world around you that is associated with you focusing for the core parts of the day, every work day on this career, it's going to eat your lunch. and you're going to make excuse after excuse. Now, this is harder for some people than others. Some people have just tremendous hearts, and they want to be that go-to person. They want to help, and some of them have to. Some people, they have to be the go-to person. If you don't have to, you need to learn to say no. And for some folks, if you have to, maybe the timing is wrong for this career. It's the timing in the situation isn't right for everybody. And you don't want to have a bad experience and be another one of those people that used to be in insurance, used to be an insurance agent, and has a bad taste in their mouth over it because life wasn't going to let them do it at that time. Okay. So if you're going to do it, you've got to craft the world around you and set expectations so you have a large block of the day where you can focus on building your business, your career. And then you have an incredibly outsized ability to bless and help others. You will become a bulwark to those that you love and care about. You will be a blessing. But if you meander through this career and you're always at everybody's beck and call, you will not be able to be the outsized blessing to them. Hobbies and entertainment. You've got to turn off the computer at home, your phone, and social media has become incredibly adept. And that can be TV. I think today's modern TV, I guess it could be Netflix. Mine would be YouTube right here. But it'll soak up your time. It'll eat it up. There's games that you can put on your phone that will soak up time. And you'll rationalize, oh, it's just for a minute. It's just for a minute. It's just for a minute. Careful. All right. Video games. When you are starting this career, you have to decide something. Okay. You have to decide that you're putting aside all those extras, all those little pieces of things that do bring you joy, that you enjoy, that are entertainment. You're going to have to put them aside, and you're going to have to do that serious adulting for a couple of years. Now, I'd say at least 6 months. So if you are the coach for the Little League team, you may have to say, this season, I can't do it. Or I'm here as an assist for a couple games. Okay? But there are going to have to be sacrifices of focus and time, and you're going to have to pick carefully and just make sure that you're not falling into the trap of entertainment or honeydews or things that are taking our over large swaths. You're starting a business, and the vast majority of people drastically underestimate the sacrifice and the focus, the time, and the effort. All those things, they drastically underestimate what it really takes. They want someone to tell them something different. They want to believe that they can fit their ideal lifestyle in their current lifestyle, their preferences, their entertainment, their commitments into this new venture, that it will conform to them. And it's not how it works. It takes those 4 things: sacrifice, focus, time, and effort, that is abnormal, so that in a short period of time, you have highly abnormal outcomes. And then you can be that person that they joke about at the office because you're always on the golf course. Okay, the big one. The big dream stealer is your expectations versus reality. I can also call this the dark period, or the funner looking thing. So what do I mean? You need to go into this career with a set of expectations about how life will work, the effort, the time, the focus, right? The energy put into it. And also understand that the beginning is going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be busy. You got the NOS gas on in your first month or two, and you can do just about anything. You could grind through phone calls. You can knock on doors. You can hear no's. You can bluster through being bad at your pitch and in missed sales, and you can do all that. But there's usually a point, I call it the dark period, where some people have short dark periods or non-existent. But they're lucky, they're blessed. Maybe they did a few things extra right in the beginning, but eventually the excitement's going to draw off. The money isn't jumping yet. Annuity, large life cases aren't paying out yet. They're just starting to get started, or they're falling through your fingers because you're kind of messing them up like I did. By month 3 and into month 4, I kept trying and losing some of these sales personally until I kind of figured it out. But I had to go through that period. And most people, not most, all, all people in all businesses go through dark periods. Here's what happens to the vast majority, like 90% of people hit this. They go into this career and they know about that much of it because you really can't know everything. Okay, you can't know half of it, but you go into it with certain expectations. You know, this is a reasonable risk. It's worthwhile, and the excitement's there. And you go up, and then the excitement wears off. You gain more knowledge, but you're also in the middle of the grind. Okay, there's grind. There's always crap to dig up. There's no business that doesn't have things that aren't sexy, that you just got to do and you got to get good at for a while. And you probably won't be doing them for your whole career, but right now you got to do them because you don't have a giant clientele. You don't have all the skill sets. You don't have a huge referral base yet. You may have great leads, but you're burning half of them because you're not sharp yet, right? You go through this period, it starts to feel hard because of the length of time. And what happens is you start to realize this is hard. And now there's other things that look more exciting. They have the fresh veneer of what they offer. And you start to convince yourself your mind will do this to you. Your emotions will do this to you. It will tell you that whatever it is, it's going to be easier. It's going to be sexier. It's going to be more interesting than what you're doing now. And so few people make it past that without jumping ship. That's why there is that survivorship bias. That's why there is that 1% or 10% or whatever it is, that small group of people who do make it and experience the gains that everybody was after in the beginning, because they make it through that dark period. They get past the veneer of the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And this is with all businesses, and it's definitely with insurance, and it's under any design you're under. Some will help you get through it faster. Some will help you experience it much shorter, but it's going to be there. So that's my list of the dream stealers. So let's take a lesson from those who didn't make it. Honor their, memorialize their losses, so it helps us make a better decision. If you will, share with everybody what you think helped you get through hard parts. What was hard for you? What are some of your expectations about the career that were met or not met? And what have you seen be dream stealers, and how perhaps can we get past them?